What happens when a teenager becomes one of the most famous people on the planet by broadcasting pure, unfiltered chaos? The story of iShowSpeed isn't just about fame, it's about what happens when the performance becomes indistinguishable from the person. It's a journey that pushes the boundaries of entertainment, controversy, and the very nature of modern celebrity itself, forcing us to watch, often through parted fingers, as a young man navigates a reality he created but can no longer fully control. Before the sold-out stadiums, before the name was whispered in the same breath as football legends, before he became a human lightning rod for controversy, there was just Darren Watkins Jr. in a room, illuminated by the glow of a monitor. The stage was not a global one. It was the hyper-competitive, often brutal digital crucible of NBA 2K. In this world, clout is measured in skill, and respect is earned through dominance. For many aspiring streamers, the path is one of polish and professionalism. For Darren, the path was different. It was paved with pure, unadulterated rage. His early streams were not a performance in the traditional sense. They were a raw nerve, exposed. Every missed shot, every digital opponent's taunt, every perceived injustice from the game's code resulted in an explosion. Controllers were slammed, screams echoed, and a torrent of unfiltered frustration poured through the microphone. To an outsider, it might have looked like a breakdown, but to a small, growing audience, it was magnetic. In a landscape saturated with curated personalities and forced positivity, Speed's fury felt real. It was the kind of anger every gamer had felt, but rarely dared to express so vividly. This wasn't a character yet. It was a reaction. He was a human pressure valve for the frustrations of online life. His earliest fans weren't just watching someone play a game. They were watching a reflection of their own moments of incandescent anger, amplified to an operatic scale. They saw a kid who was unapologetically himself, even when that self was loud, abrasive, and losing his mind over a video game. This was the foundational ingredient of the iShowSpeed brand, discovered almost by accident in the solitary confinement of his bedroom. An authenticity so potent, so volatile, it couldn't be ignored. But raw power is useless until it's focused, and Darren was about to find a way to channel that chaotic energy into an empire. The transition from a niche community of rage-addicted gaming fans to a global phenomenon didn't happen overnight. It was a process of evolution, of understanding what his audience truly craved. They didn't just want to see him get angry at other players, they wanted to see him wage war against the absurd, and he found his perfect foil in a cartoon dog. The mobile app Talking Ben became his first and perhaps most important co-star. The premise was simple: a dog that would answer questions with a yes, a no, or a dismissive ho ho ho. For Speed, this wasn't a game. It was a battle of wills. We witnessed him engage in long, one-sided arguments with the nonplussed canine, his frustration mounting with every simplistic reply. The sheer absurdity of a human being brought to the brink of madness by a children's app was comedic gold. It was here that he began to hone his true craft, creating spectacle out of the mundane. He wasn't just reacting to stimuli anymore, he was creating the stimuli himself, pushing situations to their most illogical and hilarious extremes. This formula was perfected in a moment that would become legendary, a clip that serves as a masterclass in his unique brand of comedy. While interacting with a talking Tom cat avatar, he became incensed by its silent, smiling imitation of his words. He slowly zoomed in on the character's face, his own voice rising in a crescendo of disbelief and rage, culminating in a simple, desperate question: who is this? That moment was the formula, distilled. It was pure, weaponized absurdity. The clip went supernova, breaking containment from his core audience and spreading across every social media platform. He had tapped into a universal language of comedic frustration. Following this blueprint, his content expanded. He would bark at his own dog, light firecrackers in his bedroom, and engage in surreal, often confrontational interactions on video chat platforms. He had created a feedback loop of chaos, with millions of people now tuning in specifically to see where the breaking point was. He was no longer just playing games, he was playing the internet itself, and it wouldn't take long for him to find its edge. The greatest dangers to iShowSpeed's career were not always self-inflicted. As his fame swelled to astronomical levels, he became a target for one of the internet's most dangerous and malicious pranks: swatting. This is when a viewer, armed with a creator's address, makes a false police report of a violent crime, hoping to trigger a full-scale tactical police response on a live broadcast. In August 2022, this terrifying possibility became a reality. While sitting in his gaming chair, broadcasting to thousands, Speed was startled by shouts from downstairs. He fell silent, a look of genuine confusion and fear washing over his face. He was placed in handcuffs, his producer forced to end the stream as the situation escalated. The images that later emerged were chilling. Speed, handcuffed and bewildered, while armed officers cleared his home. This wasn't a performance. It was a real-life home invasion, orchestrated by an anonymous viewer for their own twisted amusement. The incident laid bare the terrifying bargain of modern internet fame. To build a parasocial relationship with millions, you often sacrifice your privacy, and in doing so, you invite a level of danger that is almost impossible to comprehend. The online world, the source of his fortune, had bled into his reality in the most traumatic way imaginable. Yet sometimes the danger didn't need an outside catalyst. The relentless demand for content, for constantly escalating the spectacle, created a pressure to push his own limits of safety. In a now infamous stream on the 4th of July, Speed decided to light a large Pikachu firework inside his own bedroom. What began as a moment of childish, chaotic glee quickly turned to panic. The firework erupted in a shower of sparks, filling the small room with thick, acrid smoke as fire alarms blared. He scrambled to contain the situation, his face a mask of terror. It was a perfect, terrifying metaphor for his entire career, a stunt undertaken for the amusement of his audience, which spiraled into a moment of genuine, self-inflicted peril. The line between the entertainer and reality had been completely erased. His home was no longer a sanctuary. It was a volatile stage for life-threatening drama, both imported and homegrown. The fallout was immediate and absolute. The accidental clip became the single biggest story on the internet. Commentary channels, news outlets, and social media platforms exploded with discussion, memes, and calls for his permanent removal from YouTube. The incident was a perfect storm, combining a taboo subject with one of the world's most visible and polarizing figures. His YouTube channel was swiftly demonetized, and then, for a terrifying period, it appeared he might be banned entirely. The internet, which had built him into a king, was now calling for his complete and total erasure. He was standing in the eye of a digital hurricane. What followed was a masterclass in modern crisis management, whether intentional or not. Speed disappeared from the public eye for a short period before emerging with a raw, emotional apology video. This was different from previous apologies. The bravado was gone, replaced by what appeared to be genuine fear and shame. He spoke about his mental state, the overwhelming humiliation, and the terror of losing the career he had built since he was a child. He wasn't just apologizing for an action. He was pleading for empathy, framing himself as a young man crushed by an unimaginable accident under an unforgiving microscope. This vulnerability created a crucial shift in the narrative. While his detractors saw it as a long overdue reckoning, his massive, fiercely loyal fan base saw a human being in pain. They rallied to his defense, flooding social media with messages of support and arguing that an accident should not destroy a person's life. The dynamic was fascinating. A creator, a platform, and an audience locked in a complex negotiation of consequence and forgiveness. In the end, YouTube restored his channel. The decision was likely a complex calculus of public pressure, advertiser concerns, and the undeniable fact that iShowSpeed, even mired in controversy, generates an astronomical amount of engagement. He had passed through the crucible and emerged on the other side, scarred but still standing. This led to the most baffling chapter of his story yet, validation from the very industry that had come so close to casting him out. Just a few months after the incident that nearly ended his career, iShowSpeed found himself in an entirely alien environment, on stage, under the bright lights of the Streamy Awards, the YouTube community's equivalent of the Oscars. Nominated for Breakout Streamer, he won. Standing in front of his peers, the very people who create the polished content his persona rails against, he accepted the award. It was a moment of supreme irony, a symbol of his complete absorption and validation by the mainstream. The industry had recognized that the chaos engine was too powerful to ignore. This raises the ultimate question about his career. How has he survived what would have permanently erased almost any other public figure? The answer may lie in a fundamental shift in what audiences demand from celebrities. For his millions of fans, the controversies are not bugs. They are features. They are proof of the authenticity they crave. In their eyes, his mistakes, his unfiltered rage, his cultural blunders, and even his catastrophic accidents are all part of the same package. To defend iShowSpeed is to defend the idea of a celebrity who is unfiltered, unpredictable, and unapologetically human, for better or for worse. His career is a testament not just to his own relentless energy, but to this powerful new dynamic in creator culture. Has he truly matured from his experiences? Or has he simply become more adept at navigating the cycle of scandal and apology? Is the chaos he embodies being tamed, or has it just been given a stronger leash and a bigger stage? The truth is likely somewhere in between. He remains a work in progress, a young man growing up in public, with every misstep broadcast for global consumption and debate. The story of iShowSpeed is a living document, a real-time experiment in the limits of online fame. It forces us to ask, in the modern world where celebrity is forged in chaos, is there a line that can't be uncrossed? Or has the internet's appetite for authenticity, no matter how volatile, created a star who is simply too big to fail?